Today, we are very pleased to have Rotem to join us. Rotem, Chief Product Officer at Netlinkz Limited, ACB code NET. Welcome, Rotem.
Hello, Hannah, and thanks for having me. Also, hello to our listeners and readers. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Before we get on to the product and the market, Rotem, could you please tell us a bit about your background and career experience?
Thank you, Hannah. Sure. My personal background is in telecoms industry and specifically IT and networking. Over the years, had the privilege of working in large telecom companies, worked in various networking vendors, large managed service providers in both Australia and across the Asia Pacific region. In 2012, I relocated to the US, where I was fortunate to be one of the early pioneers in software-defined networking space, where I built an SD-WAN product as part of a Silicon Valley startup. More recently, I located back to Australia, where I'm from, to run the Australian New Zealand digital infrastructure business for Netlinkz Limited, which is, for those who know or don't, a dominant global MSP focused on all things digital. Post that, I founded a startup in the automation space, and now I'm the CTO and Chief Product Officer for Netlinkz.
Obviously, you're very experienced in IT industry. For our readers who haven't got a chance to learn about Netlinkz, could you please briefly introduce Netlinkz?
Sure. Netlinkz, very interesting company, and we'll talk about later why I joined. But Netlinkz is foremost a software vendor. And as this name suggests, Netlinkz, we specialize in the networking space. Netlinkz is an Australian ASX-listed company with offices in Australia, China, and Europe. In terms of offers, we have two B2B market offers. The first one being a virtual secure network, or what we call a VSN product. That is a flagship product. And the second one is an engineering services division. Speaking about the engineering services division, Netlinkz really has a Shanghai-based WFOE, which is a joint venture with iSoftStone. The JV is focused on helping our Chinese and our China-based businesses do all things digital transformation. In 2019, the WFOE established an innovation lab, essentially to showcase the capability of digital transformation, and through that, deliver the outcomes for our China-based customers.
So tell us, why have you decided to join Netlinkz?
Interesting question. Why I joined Netlinkz? Several reasons. I won't go to all of them, but I think there's two key reasons, I think, which I like to highlight today. There were people and timing. Let me explain what I mean by timing specifically. Part of my DD on Netlinkz, I was fortunate to get to know the Netlinkz leadership team and the broader operational teams. A key success factor to me in a company is that the people in that company are really excited about what they do. They believe in the technology and the market they're going after. It was clear to me that the leadership team and the operational teams really were passionate and thought they could make a difference. And I love to join a team that can make a difference. So it's about people. The timing is really a different kind of aspect as to why I think Netlinkz is very relevant. And to me, that was extremely interesting. It's one thing to have technology that is really innovative and can change things, but it's really quite another thing to have a technology at the right time that the market needs it. If we kind of all know, we all work in a COVID world, and we've seen COVID accelerate, if you like, the move to work from home, and what we call at Netlinkz, the whole mobility movement. So the VSN and the product where Netlinkz had technology was all about mobility. The market was moving towards mobility. So I thought the timing of the technology and the market need was really aligned. And to me, that was a shift that I was looking for. And the suitability of the technology is really here to stay. And I think Netlinkz has an exciting future ahead of it. So I'd love to join that company, and ultimately I did.
That's great. Apart from the people and the timing, as you mentioned, what makes Netlinkz different from other companies from the market perspective?
Yeah, interesting. So I think technology, and various companies have technologies and they all believe in technology. But Netlinkz is an interesting kind of technology player in the networking space. The technology has been deployed across many sectors of the market, across fintech, utilities, water management, renewables like solar and wind farms, enterprise use cases and clouds, and the list goes on. So there's a broad applicability for the technology at Netlinkz. And when you look at those projects and deployments, Netlinkz really has been able to develop a very unique perspective to the market and how technology in all these different settings is being used. And I believe that unique perspective gives Netlinkz a competitive advantage going forward. Also, let me add that unlike many of the solutions in the space, the Netlinkz technology is non-disruptive. What do I mean? Other companies have proprietary technologies that don't interoperate, they're hardware-centric. You really have to take your infrastructure and swap it out. With Netlinkz, we have really focused on making sure that our technology is consumable, interoperable, and easy to integrate. This allows our customers to gain all the benefits of the technology while maximizing their investments, not having to replace expensive infrastructure, and really just gain all the value of the technology, leveraging their existing investment. By the way, that makes the VSN product easy to trial, easy to pilot, and ultimately easy to deploy.
Thank you, Rotem. At Netlinkz, the main product is VSN. What is VSN?
Yeah, good question. So VSN, or as we expand the acronym, at the networking and vendor world, we love acronyms. But VSN stands for Virtual Secure Network, which is the Netlinkz flagship product. It's a network-centric solution. If you think about networking and you think about all things digital, everything connects to the network. So I think Netlinkz and VSN is at the heart of all digital communications. If you disconnect from the network, you're essentially isolated. And that's what VSN tries to do, make sure that every user and every device is always connected securely to protect the data that is being sent across that networking infrastructure. Next, VSN is a network as a service solution. It's very similar to a SaaS model, but in the networking space. And we commercialize VSN through a term-based subscription licensing model. This is not just a commercialization revenue activity, but it's really important for Netlinkz and for our customers. Being a term-based subscription model allows Netlinkz to have predictable revenues. But more importantly for our customers, it removes the hurdles that are associated with very large CapEx investments, having to buy a lot of hardware to consume the technology. We really try to simplify the way we go to market. And that's not only in the technology space, but also in the commercialization and licensing space. So we offer a network as a service subscription, which is simple, pay as you go, versus our competitors, which may be more around very large upfront investments. If I can, just one last thing, if I can make a comment, Hannah, I'm sorry to interrupt. What does that all mean for our users? So I talked about subscription, I talked about NaaS, I talked about technology, many aspects. So I want to boil it down and talk about what does it mean for our users. VSN, if you think about it, imagine if you were able to have your own personal communication platforms that goes with you wherever you go.
That's right.
Being able to access any application from anywhere. At Netlinkz, we call it personalized communication for every user or device. Personalized to us means private, performant, and available, tailored for every user and every need. Really goes to the heart of VSN, which is a mobility-first platform.
We know that you're very experienced in IT. So can you please explain the tech in simple words? We always heard about technology. So could you please explain the tech?
Let me try. And sometimes I get accused, Hannah, of going a bit too technical. So let me know and I'll pause. But
Sure.
VSN is a software offering. It's a software implementation for secure networking. From a technology perspective, it leverages many of the principles of what we call Web 2.0. And if I dig a bit more into that, specifically software-defined networking. I mentioned before, the backbone of VSN is deployed using a NaaS solution, which is a network as a service, very similar to a cloud-based solution in the SaaS world. Users can access the VSN by downloading VSN clients from their favorite app store and install on their devices. The software that you install on a device then intelligently manages all communication right from the user device to create their own portable mobile-first private and performant connections as part of the VSN secure architecture.
Thank you. Could you please tell us what are the key areas where customers are onboarding VSN?
There are many, to be honest, but I think if we can talk about it in three broad categories.
Sure.
The first one is all about mobility and is focused on the shift in enterprise and the corporate world to hybrid workforce. We mentioned before COVID-19 and the shift to a hybrid working world where employees are no longer just located in the office, but are working from home. At this shift of hybrid workforce, there's also a shift in consumption. We're seeing customers increasingly ask for cloud-delivered services, and therefore that's why VSN is a NaaS-based solution. They're moving away from hardware-centric, non-scalable, upfront investment to a pay-as-you-go model. What does that do for our customers? It allows them to scale on demand. You know, when people moved away from the office and moved to working from home, that brought a lot of uncertainty and risk for our customers. That uncertainty was around, is this trend going to stay? What scalability do I need to invest at in order to support this shift? Now we know hindsight is 2020, and we know the shift is here to stay. But really, we see a whole bunch of use cases being deployed using a pay-as-you-go model for the work from home worker. And we call that the mobility set of use cases. The second kind of use case category is the obvious one, which has been going on for quite a while now, is the move to cloud. Now, this one is interesting because whenever I say the move to cloud, a lot of my customers think about, well, I'm moving my app to cloud. Can I have some secure access? We see more and more of the move to cloud being focused on IoT type use cases, not only about applications moving to cloud, but whole IT architectures being based on cloud. Let me give you an example. We worked with a large water sanitation project in Sichuan province in China, sponsored by the World Bank, where many rural IoT sensors were monitoring water quality and sending data back to a central hub for data processing. Now, if you think about that, that's also a cloud use case. This data processing is in the cloud and all the IoT sensors are all deployed in rural geographical dispersed locations. So VSN was deployed to assist with massive data management problem and securing the data in transit from all these IoT sensors back to the cloud where the data could be processed using AI and machine learning. We also have another case in Middle East and North Africa. We're working and seeing a lot of our customers focus on a different set of move to cloud use cases. This is the Smart City project, and specifically around CCTV and IP surveillance. We're seeing a shift from central on-prem command and control environments to cloud-based video management as a service solutions. And this is really quite understandable because as you deploy more cameras, as the cameras become more high definition and collect more images, those images have to be stored. Cloud is a perfect location to do all this management and storage. And in that case, VSN secures all the communication from all the cameras back to the cloud where these images can be processed and managed. The last kind of set of use cases is around zero trust networking. You may have heard of that, Hannah. Zero trust networking is really a hot topic and is only picking up steam as we move forward. Zero trust networking, to summarize, is the move away from a trusted user or device model. And now we no longer trust devices. We assume that devices are untrusted, hence the word zero trust. And there's a whole set of exciting use cases that are emerging in that space.
That's an interesting idea. I have heard that the devices are untrusted. Can you please tell us more about the zero trust branch networking? What is zero trust networking and how VSN can help?
Again, this topic is extensive and actually gets quite technical. So let me see how I go. So I'll try to keep it kind of at the high level. But there's a set of use cases that are really targeted in improving the enterprise's security posture. These use cases are about making sure that every device that connects to the enterprise network must earn the trust status. Today, that's not the case. Enterprises connect to enterprise devices connect to enterprise networks, and they're already trusted. They're not really validated, authenticated extensively, and continuously monitored. So there's an implicit trust today. We want to move away from that trust to an untrusted state where we first validate before we connect devices to the enterprise network. And you may think, why is that? There's been many security breaches in enterprise networks that prove that trusting devices in the enterprise network is not secure. So our customers are aware of that and are moving towards an untrusted model, which is the zero trust networking model. If I kind of dive a bit more into the detail, VSN really allows the zero trust networking use case by allowing enterprises to consider their private networks as internet infrastructure. Like when you work from home and you connect over the internet to your corporate offices, the same thing in your office network. How about you treat the office network as untrusted and as internet? To do that, you really need a technology like VSN that enables enterprises the controls needed to implement zero trust networking in the enterprise private networks. And that's what VSN does. So hopefully I gave you a bit of a sense of zero trust networking, complicated topic, but really a shift in the way enterprise security is implemented, and VSN right in the middle of that.
I think that is how Netlinkz provides secure, safe, and stable service for the customers. Talking about the customers, Netlinkz has 102 business partners globally, including several big Chinese companies, such as ByteDance, China Telecom, Jingdong Clouds, etc. They are very famous big companies in China. I have a question. As an Australian company, what are the key factors to win the contract with Chinese big companies? What are the competitive advantages of Netlinkz?
You want the secret sauce, how we win.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think, look, let me just say this. No contract is the same.
That's right.
But if I draw some things and maybe share what we see, a formula that works for us in China to big contracts with big Chinese companies, let me highlight a couple. First of all, let me highlight that we work with a lot of multinational corporations that have presence in China. We don't only work with China domestic organizations, which are very important to us, but we also work with multinational organizations that have presence in China. So we've got to cater for both of those kind of operations in China. When it comes to VSN, the first and foremost, let me tell you that the product and its collateral is available in local Chinese dialect, which unbelievably helps us in articulating the value of the product and engaging with our local customer base. Having the common language culture for the product and its development allows us to really bridge the gap between technology and sale. So we think that's critical. The second, I think, formula to winning in China is part of our innovation strategy, which I'm proud to lead. We have established in China through our WUFI, as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, a China Innovation Lab. The China Innovation Lab really allows our partners and our customers to see the Netlinkz technology in action. It also allows us to incubate and test new solutions for the China market. It allows our customers and our partners to feel and understand how the technology adds value if they deploy it, which I think is a great human attribute to the way we interact with our customers. An example, let me give you an example. Recently, we worked with the China Innovation Lab to test and implement an AI-powered CCTV surveillance solution, which we subsequently deployed for the Beijing Municipality Petrol Station project in Beijing. Lastly, we have a Netlinkz engineering service division in China. It's critical to have a local presence, and you have the technology, and VSN is the technology and product, but really our engineering services capability in China helps us to deploy the VSN, to do the pre-sales and pro-sales and support for the VSN in China. So I think being a local presence with an innovation hub, with a great technology that is local in the local dialect, really allows us to win projects, and we have shown that in China.
Thanks for sharing. Rotem, does VSN have a role in Internet of Things or 5G?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I hope so, but let me tell you what I really feel. I think definitely the answer is absolutely. We touched on this maybe a bit earlier on with the water plant project and the smart city use cases when I talked about the broad use cases for VSN. If we step back and think about IoT and 5G, we expect a huge number of devices to connect to the network. So the number of devices because of IoT and 5G will only increase. When more and more devices connect, we see the impact on networks. And that's, by the way, huge amounts of data that gets generated by these devices. Before I kind of talk about VSN, one thing to note, Hannah, IoT is not only about fixed location devices. Mobile devices like drones, body cameras, motor vehicles are also part of the 5G and IoT movement, right? So the emergence of mobile IoT will also be an interesting space to watch. And with VSN, we are looking at that very carefully, and there's some innovations in that space that we are undertaking right now in IoT and 5G, specifically mobile IoT as part of our really first activities. So kind of thinking about VSN, IoT, 5G, more devices will connect, more data will be generated. Therefore, from a network perspective, more data will have to be secured, more connections will have to be managed, and that's exactly what VSN does. So we're excited about what IoT and 5G will bring for VSN, and we're actually trying to lead in the space and establish VSN as the mobile IoT play as we move forward.
We have learned a lot of things about Internet and VSN today. I have the last question. In the post-pandemic era, what are the application scenarios of Netlinkz products? What will be the future vision for Netlinkz product?
Yeah, I think that's one of my other hats outside of being a product officer, which looks at the VSN today. In my CTO role, I try to kind of look at the market, the evolution, and where we could take the VSN product. And let me tell you, first of all, I'm excited where VSN sits today and where it can go into the future. And let me give you a bit of a hint about where we think we could take the product. So VSN, first of all, will stay true to its root. VSN will continue to focus on mobility first, creating connections that are secure, performant for every user, every device, regardless of its location. We will continue to mature our NaaS footprint as we enter new markets and globalize the VSN offer. As part of our customer acquisition strategy, we'll continue to invest in our partners, onboarding our partners to give us essentially what we like to think is local presence with global reach. So we'll continue to invest in the globalization of VSN into the broader market. And a bit of a tease, I always like to leave things on a tease if we can, Hannah. We are focusing on VSN patented innovations. We talked about the innovation lab, and I think that's critical moving forward. So we will grow our innovation investments beyond China, and we'll kind of expand into the global space. Stay tuned for that in the near future.
Thank you. This is the end of the interview. We are looking forward to catch up with you again in the future. Thank you for your time, Rotem.
Thanks for having me, Hannah. All the best.